Hello, Michelle here with the Next Level Breakthrough podcast with my guest, Mike Moosbrugger.
Thank you.
Yes.
Love being here. Long-term friend.
Longtime friend. We've known, we were just talking probably
20 years.
20 years now. So
your youngest, I trained when she was in 10th grade. Still one of the best female
it's not
athletes
even my
I've ever trained.
youngest.
Oh, she's not.
My second
Second
youngest.
So there you go. When she was in 10th grade.
She was in 10th grade. So been a long time. We've known each other from a gym in the past where we met. So that gym is no longer around. So kind of split ways for a while, but got back in touch and doing some fun stuff together.
Absolutely.
So I brought Mike here. Mike, you have a really, really cool, interesting story. The idea of my podcast was kind of going to the next level.
Yeah.
Obviously, the gym that I own is all next level. So people that have big breakthroughs get to the next level. Yeah. And maybe everybody's story is different. I know yours is pretty tough to tell.
No, it's tough to tell, but for me, it's very therapeutic, right? Every time I talk about it, as I'm talking to people, I'm therapizing myself, right? So as I give these talks, it's something that I do because it brings a meaning to what happened. So, for those that haven't heard or don't know about the story, in college, I was that all-American kid, grew up Bucks County, and everything was beautiful. I was the youngest of four, the traditional all-American family. Everything was great. And one day out of the blue, I got a phone call, and I had to come home. My parents and brother were killed in a tragic drug suicide-related accident. And I'm 21 years old, and my whole world just came crumbling down.
I guess so.
Two sisters at home, dreaming of the NFL. I was getting ready to graduate early, and my father's business had to be run. We had employees to deal with, and just the shock of my entire support group. They had never missed a game. It was a very, very dark time. So I did what I think most athletes who were 21 years old would do, right? I put on the tough demeanor, I pushed it all down, and I dealt with whatever needed to be dealt with. And unfortunately, what happened, as always happens when we don't address things, as I got into my later 20s and some other instances in life happened where my football career ended, I went through kind of an identity crisis with, what do I do now? I'm not an athlete anymore. It's something I'd always been. I'd been engaged at the time. We called that off. It wasn't.
So not only did you lose your parents and your brother,
yep.
Then you're not playing football anymore. And I know athletes define themselves. That defines
Always.
you often. And what do you do after? So that's
I say that back in 2001, everybody passed. Everybody. Even myself, who I was prior to that, it was just impossible for me to be that same individual afterwards. It just irreparably changed me. And as it happened, because I left those things untreated, I got into that mindset of lying to myself about, I don't need help, I'm perfectly fine. I had been injured in football, so I was taking painkillers. So it became very comfortable for me to start taking more and more and more. And effectively what I was trying to do was just numb myself out.
Yeah, self-medicating,
All those things were starting to come back up, Michelle. And the God's honest truth was, I just wasn't prepared. I didn't have the tools at 24, 25 years old to figure out how to handle all these things that I'd pushed down and repressed for so many years, and it was all coming up at once.
Because if you don't deal with things and you push them down, they're going to resurface.
I've said this
at some point in your life.
You're absolutely right. Now, I've said it for years to people, which is, sadly, life is going to happen to all of us at some point. And I pray it never, the things that I went through don't happen to others. But the fact of the matter is, life happens. And when it happens, we have to be prepared to deal with it. And if we can't, it's okay. It's not an indictment of your character. It doesn't
not a
make
weakness,
you weak.
Right.
Exactly. And that was the fallacy that I was telling myself. I'm an ex-football player. I'm a big guy. I have to be the strong one.
He's big. He's like, how tall? He's big.
6'7", 280 pounds now.
He's a big guy.
So I was used to that. And honestly, as an athlete, we all, specifically football, we put on that armor, and it makes us feel like gladiators. We feel like just these massive men, and nothing can hurt us. Even when you get hurt in a game, it doesn't really hurt. It's weird. But the emotional pain, it's far worse than any physical pain I've ever felt in my life.
Right.
And by not addressing those things, it ultimately led me down to a path where I was taking so many painkillers, I was mixing it with alcohol, that I was in so much pain that I just decided I couldn't take it anymore. And I attempted suicide. And I did not, as I look back at it now, it wasn't that I hated life or didn't want to be here. I love life. I love engaging with people. I love coaching kids. I love all those things. It's just in that moment, the emotional pain I was feeling was so great, I just couldn't take it anymore. And the fact that I couldn't take it anymore made me feel even worse about myself.
Right.
So I started beating myself up about how weak I was. And I just said, you know what? That's it. I can't do it. So I wrote a note, took my gun, and by the greatest miracle ever, the magazine either fell out or wasn't all the way in, but when I pulled the trigger, it was a dry fire. Cried my eyes out like a baby, and the next day I dumped everything down the toilet, cold turkey. And I would tell people I found myself on my bathroom floor detoxing myself from...
You detoxed yourself.
I had hid this from my family. I'd hid it from everybody. I mean, even you knew me then. I was the guy that went around with a smile on my face,
right.
And I was dying inside. I mean, I just was dying inside, and I faked it. I faked it to everybody and just lived a lie. Lived a lie to myself. Lived a lie outside. And
I mean, you're not alone in that. I think a lot of people live like that.
It happens.
Well, obviously,
right.
They commit suicide. They feel like they're always living a lie. I mean, suicide's big, but it's depression and
it mounts up. And I really believe this for people who have committed it, that they don't want to die at all. It's the pain in that moment, and that just overwhelming feeling of being alone. And the real truth of the matter is, I was alone only because I made myself alone through the lies I was telling myself of no one's going to understand. No one's going to be able to help me. No one can bring them back. It was lie after lie. I don't have a problem. I'm fine. I can handle it. I'll take care of it on my own. And it took me, and I say this now, I had a good look at what hell is like. I looked around, I saw what it could be like, and, I just decided this is not for me. I've got to get up. I have to be honest with myself. And when you're in hell, the only way to get out of it is to walk out of it. You have to get up and walk out of it. And that's what I did.
Amazing. Can you tell your story a little bit?
Sure. Kind of how I got out of it.
Well, and no, what happened?
Yeah.
Because I know you touched on it, but
absolutely.
It puts a good story behind why you did what you did to yourself.
Absolutely. So, again, all-American family. I was the youngest of four. I couldn't have grown up in a better fashion. It was just great. I was brought up with respect and hard work, and you're a man of your word, and a very, very loving family. And I have two sisters still that are older than me. We're very close. We see each other all the time. It's great. But what had happened was my older brother, we were very much like twins. Even though he was 7 years older than me, he was my idol. I mean, he was my Superman. He could do no wrong. I always admired him. Everything he did, I wanted to do or eclipse. And same with my mother and father. They became such huge football fans. They loved it. Never missed a game. And it was such a wonderful time for me and a wonderful time for the family. And my brother, like many people, my brother was a guy who wanted everyone to like him. And he had his own self-confidence issues where he didn't realize that he didn't have to do anything to get people to like him. They already liked him, Michelle. In fact, they loved him. He was the big Joe Happio guy. So what happened with him, he got into a bad crowd. And when my brother started with drugs, he actually wasn't using them himself. He was the guy that was buying them so everyone else could use them. So he was, it's like the guy at the bar who buys rounds for everybody and doesn't drink. he did it because he wanted people to like him.
Right.
And what happened? Peer pressure took over, and my brother became a drug addict. Things started to happen where the family noticed erratic behaviors, my brother being a little off at work. He worked with my father, and finally he came clean. He admitted that he had a drug problem. My family rallied around him, got him help, sent him to rehab. All of this was kept from me, from the family, because they thought, listen, Mike's a senior, he's dreaming of playing pro football. We can handle this as a family.
You were a senior in college.
Senior in college,
Okay.
yeah. This is 2001. And at the time, looking back, I can understand the rationale. They're thinking he's going to graduate early, he's dreaming of football, like, we've got this covered, it's going to be a distraction. We know how close he is with Tommy. It could be bad for him. So they kept it from me. And my brother went through rehab, and he did very well. He moved back home with my parents. He was getting healthy. He was getting fit again, coming to games. I saw him every week. It was great. And the last time I saw the family, what happened was he went home to watch a Philadelphia Eagles Oakland Raiders game. I'll never forget it. My parents drove home. My brother flew home. And that night, he ran into that old crew, and peer pressure, in short, my brother relapsed. And he got a bunch of drugs, and he got things that were not pure, things he had never taken before. And ultimately, he got home in the middle of the night. My parents had driven home. They were upstairs asleep. My brother got home late, and he was downstairs. He was getting high, and unfortunately, with drugs, especially things you've never taken before, you never know how you're going to react.
Right.
As best I can figure, heard a noise upstairs. It's a dark house, so my brother, in this high state, he thinks he's doing the right thing. He grabs a weapon, goes upstairs. It's dark. There's two masses in the bedroom. He shoots, runs downstairs. As he gets downstairs, it looks like he just had so many toxins in his system. He just dropped and passed out. Flash forward to the next morning.
He probably doesn't even know what he did.
No clue.
Right.
Best I can tell. He has no clue about this. My father and I spoke every Tuesday morning at 9 o'clock. Not 9:01, not 8:59, 9 o'clock. And we talk about how game film was Monday night and how many tickets I needed for the upcoming weekend. Well, this particular Tuesday, October 30th, 2001, 9 o'clock came and went, and I didn't get a phone call. So I instantly knew, of course, something was off.
Right.
Never imagining what it could be. And a couple hours later, as I still hadn't heard from him, it was time for football practice. So I thought, okay, let me go to football. I'll hear when I'm done. I'm sure everything's okay. Left football practice. I was walking to my car, and I had a voicemail from my brother-in-law, and he just said, hey, I need you to call home. I called home. My sister answered the phone, and she couldn't talk. And I just said, okay, what's up? Tell me what's going on. And finally, my brother-in-law got on the phone, and he said, everybody's gone. You got to come home. And that's how I found out. I flew home in a daze the next morning, and that's when I finally learned the full story that my brother had had an addiction for a while, that he had gone to rehab, he had been doing well. And there it is at 21. I'm halfway through my senior season at Wake Forest. Again, dreaming of an NFL career, and I'm graduating early, and everything's coming together, right? My brother's going to go and live with me in whatever city I play in, and everything's going to be great. And now the world is just upside down, and I have no clue what to do other than just revert back to push it all down, be strong, be the big, tough football player, be that rock that everybody can lean on. So that's what I did.
And I think you implied, you said your brother passed out, but he also took his own life.
He did.
Yeah,
So after what ultimately happened, after my brother finally woke up and kind of the haze of what he had taken went off, he went upstairs, realized what he had done, wrote a note, included my sister and myself with some directions on what we should do and to stay away from drugs. This is what happens to you, and he took his own life.
Wow.
So it was all three at once, and that was it. After that, it was just, and I say all the time, like that day, my whole family passed. I passed, my sisters passed in a certain extent, because
what you knew.
you're just never the same
normal.
after that, Michelle. You're just never the same. And then it was for me, it was a couple of years where I just stayed in that stoic mentality where there wasn't a lot of emotion. I didn't, people know this about me. You've known me for a long time. I'm pretty much a big kid. I like to laugh around and joke. And I think I went 3 or 4 years where I did not smile. I didn't laugh. My sister pointed it out to me where she finally realized, like, hey, he's coming back around again. He's laughing a little bit more. He's showing some emotion. And then what happened when I started to show that emotion, that's when the floodgates inside of me started to open up. It was just like a tea kettle boiling over. Mm-hmm. As soon as a little crack inside opened up to let emotion out, all those things that I pressed down for years started coming back.
Wow.
And it left me stuck thinking circularly about my circular thinking and all those demons in my head and all the horrible things that I would say to myself about, this was your fault. If you had known, this wouldn't have happened, and trying to take responsibility for it,
right.
Which
it was not your response, right?
It's utterly ridiculous.
Right,
it's strictly and I can say now, it was strictly a matter of my ego talking, because I was desperately trying to make sense of something that you'll never make sense of.
And hey, you're 21 years old. You're not 40, 35, 40. The maturity, obviously,
exactly.
But no matter how mature you are, you're still only 21 years old. Yeah. You were a kid to deal with this stuff. So.
And at 40 now, I tell people all the time, I'm still a work in progress. So I don't have it figured out. It's taken me 20 years and searching and just going to therapy and doing self-therapy, spending time alone with myself and really getting to know who Mike was, to be able to process this in a positive way and to turn it into something that can be a warning. It can be something to hopefully help others. It can be something to show people that even on our darkest days, like, the sun's going to come up the next day. Right. Even if it doesn't feel like it will, it's going to. It's going to. And we have to get up. Like I said, walking through hell, it's just like walking through life. We've just got to get up and put one foot in front of each other every day, regardless if it's a horrible tragedy like I dealt or something as simple as you're just not happy in your job. It's the same process.
Right.
You have to get up and go forward each day.
Yeah. Wow. Amazing. Well, I think you're amazing because I know what you've been through, and I know how good you came out of it. I mean,
it's I thank you for the compliment. It's taken a while. I didn't come out of it very well, honestly. When I first started, it's taken a long time for me to really process my ego and the negative self-talk. I really had to get to a point where I disliked myself so much that I could finally start to love who I was and get comfortable in who I was and who my skin is. No one's going to think less of me if I show emotion. No one's no one blames me for what happened, right? And those are the dysmorphic thoughts that ran through my head all the time. Like, everyone's going to judge me. Everyone's going to think it's my fault. Why didn't I say that? Why didn't I do more? Why didn't I fix it for myself?
When in reality, people don't give it that much thought, or anyone that much thought, right?
Not at all.
Nobody was thinking the thoughts you were putting in your own head. It doesn't happen. It's
all me. And I see it so many times in kids that I coach, and when I give these talks, and I've talked to others, we all do that negative self-talk, these limiting behaviors where we think that we can't do things, and we literally, we're lying. And the hardest thing about this, and I tell this to folks, is you have to embrace your pain. Whatever your pain is, if it's something like mine, God bless you, embrace it, right? I mean, we're dealing right now, and many people are dealing with a tragic loss of Kobe Bryant.
Kobe Bryant last night, yesterday.
It makes no sense. We'll never be able to make sense of it. And, we look at it, we were blessed to have that guy for 41 years and all the great things he did in life. And, his beautiful wife and his sweet daughters. Right now, we'll never be able to make sense of it.
No.
But we have to be grateful that we had him for whatever time that we had him, and remember and
take the lessons
and be appreciative.
Yeah,
Right.
take the lessons. He gave some good lessons. I mean, he's very positive.
It matters.
Yeah.
Nothing much like people say this to me all the time. My goodness, Mike, I never would have been able to get through what you got through. And part of me, I
You
appreciate.
almost didn't, right?
I really almost
You
didn't.
almost didn't.
And part of me, I appreciate that compliment. And the other
You
side
say
of
that
me,
joking, because we know each other
Exactly.
for quite a while.
the other side of me gets angry though, because I'm like, no,
You can.
you can, and you will. God forbid, if you have to, you will. Because if you had asked me on October 29th, would I get through that? Absolutely, positively not.
Right.
I couldn't do it. And if there's one message that people can take away, I don't care what your circumstances are. You are capable of great things. You can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Someone's telling you can't. Don't own that behavior,
Right.
right? Someone else put
You're
that there.
putting it in your head, right?
A spouse, a coach, a loved one,
Right.
someone.
A
They
teacher.
put that there.
Yeah.
Exactly. And, you know, the dysmorphic thinking that I had, frankly, it came from the old school football mentality of be tough, don't show emotion, right? I mean, football used to be water was for the weak.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, literally, think about how crazy that is. Water was for weak. So, you know,
Right.
we wouldn't get a
You don't
drink of
need
water
water,
just
right.
to prove we were tough.
Right, right.
It's ridiculous.
Right.
But when that gets ingratiated into your head, that was my fallback. And I started to think about, what do I know? Okay, I know how to just suck it up and be tough.
Right.
What I should have done, and what I implore people to do now, if you can't do it on your own,
Get
ask
help.
for help.
Mm-hmm.
I wish so much, Michelle, that I had not wasted years and years of lying to myself and lying to others, thinking that I was doing the right thing. I was just making myself miserable, absolutely miserable. And as soon as I asked for help, I went, I got introduced to a therapist who, to this day, he's one of my favorite people. And he helped save my life, because he gave me the tools to fix myself. And he just listened to me.
Mm-hmm.
And he worked hard. And I was, God bless
We're a
him.
good patient.
I made he earned his fee for sure. Because I think for the first year, I don't think I said anything to him, honestly.
Oh, really?
I gave him dribs and drabs, and we
You
didn't.
weren't ready.
And it took his persistent, consistent pursuit of showing me every day he didn't have ill intent, he understood,
Cared.
and he would just sit there and stare at me and wait to see which one of us talk first. And finally, I'm like, well, I'm doing this. I know he cares. Let's just see what this guy can do. And he gave me the tools, and he fixed me.
Wow.
And for that, I am forever, forever grateful, because the tools that he provided me, they're very simple. We've got to live in the truth. If you can't do it on your own, ask for help. And brutal but loving personal accountability. All those things, Michelle, I am not a victim of my circumstances, and I allowed myself
Right.
to be the victim.
Right.
I allowed myself to play that tune and justify, it's okay for me to take all these painkillers because I'm in pain. It's okay for me to mix it with alcohol because I'm in pain. It's not okay.
Right.
It wasn't okay, and it wasn't okay at all, but I lived that lie for so long. And he taught me, no, look at all the good things that you have. Practice gratitude. That is where I live my life nowadays.
Practicing, yeah, you're very big on it. Which
Believe it.
we all should be grateful for every day.
It's
but
hard.
It is hard. Well, yeah.
It's
For
hard.
what you've been through, I'm sure.
And
I'm sure.
I tell people I am absolutely a work in progress as well. And I want people to know that so many times, this is why I love what you do too. So many times we have people that are doing podcasts, and they're giving beautiful advice. And I appreciate and I love that they're successful. But when you're sitting in, a mansion on the beach and you're pontificating about how hard it's been, it's not that your struggle is any less valuable, but you're so far removed from it. For the people that are going through it at the moment,
Right.
they can't even comprehend
Right.
that they could be you, and you can be. So for me, I always tell people, I'm going through this with you. Yeah, I've been fortunate. I've had some success, but not remotely enough for what I want. So we're all on this journey
Yeah.
together. And as much as I'm teaching, I'm learning.
You learn from everybody.
Everybody.
Don't you?
And it's why I love giving these talks. Every time I've given a talk, whether it's to thousands of people or whether it's to 10 people, I've always come away learning something about myself and learning a new technique or something that someone else does that adds value to their life. And that, for me, that's what really kind of gets me going. I love that. I appreciate people who have had life kick them just repeatedly again and again and again, and they keep getting up. I love. And anyone who can overcome that and do it, you're aces in my book.
Yeah, you're going to be successful.
It's not hard to do, and that's the truth. And I know people are probably like, oh, it's awful to do. It's actually a really simple process. The hard part is doing it honestly. That's the hard part.
Not gonna lie, yeah.
We all lie to ourselves. I try not to, but there's times where I'll still do it, and I'll catch myself in it and be like, no, that wasn't your best effort, Mike.
Right.
You can do better than that. You hit the snooze today. Like, come on.
Don't ever hit that snooze button.
Exactly. and I'm big on that because, we hear about this, the David Goggins of the worlds and Bedros and Dave Meltzers and people like that. Like, you're starting your day off with
in
defeat.
a negative, right?
Yeah, and
negative
it really does matter. Dave Meltzer, who's one of my mentors and one of my best friends, he says it to me all the time, and he said it to me enough where now I use it and I repeat it to myself, which is be kind to your future self. It's one of the best pieces of advice I've ever gotten. I wish I'd gotten that when I was 21 because we're all going to keep going and life's going to keep coming. But if we're kind to ourselves, boy, it makes those hard days palatable because I'm so grateful, right? I'm grateful. I've got a roof over my head. I've got food in the fridge. I've got good friends. I can come here and go on your podcast. And, there's so many things to be grateful for. And the little nuanced things that I'm complaining about or lying about to justify that day, in a week, I'm not even going to remember what they are. It's just in the moment, I got stuck thinking circular about it and become obsessive about something that's utter nonsense.
That's nonsense, yeah.
Complete
We all do
nonsense.
it. We all do. I know I was a people pleaser, so I did everything to make everyone else happy, no matter how much I suffered inside. But I told myself I was doing good.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I wasn't doing good
It's
for myself,
justification. No,
yeah, and then you spend years and years and years, and then you're like, who am I? I don't even know. You really.
Yeah. And it's really interesting that you said that because I think a lot of people, and I know that I did this myself, we end up becoming martyrs.
Well,
to a certain extent,
yeah,
right? Where we're constantly, I'm doing so much for somebody else, but you're dying inside.
Yeah.
You're feeling horrible about yourself, and you're justifying that that's okay because you're doing for other people.
Or just not even giving your own self-thought, really. Yeah. I mean, I don't have a story anything like yours, but raising 4 kids, being a mom, being busy, you're go. They all go to school, and you're like, all right, what now? Like, you really don't have an identity. I think there's a lot of moms out there that probably struggle with that, but it's like, what's my identity? I was this. Then I was this. Then I was a mom, and now what am I?
And I think it's an exact parallel to what athletes face because our kids grow up and then they go away to college and suddenly they don't need mom so much anymore.
Yeah, they're all gone, and you're like, okay.
Now what do I do? Like, who am I going to mom? Right. Because they're adults now. The secret to that is even when we're I'm 40 and I can still use my father, right? So. Even though kids grow up,
you always need
them. But it's such a challenge because, and especially for you, 4, and you were very integrated in their life, and then all of a sudden it's like, wow, they're kind of grown women.
Yeah.
What do I do?
Yeah. But I think everybody, it doesn't matter what you do, athletes, Kayla was the same way. She was a gymnast. My daughter was a gymnast from 5 to 14. She was a gymnast. Like, that's who she was. Like, who are you? And she defined herself as a gymnast. And she didn't know half of her family as far as uncles, cousins. Like, she didn't even know them because she lived the life of a gymnast.
Yep.
And then I struggle as a mom. I'm like, does she know who she is? Yeah. You know what? She's probably still trying to figure it out a little bit, right? She's 27 years old.
She is, and God bless her.
Aren't we all?
Yeah.
So it
listen,
matter.
She's got it figured out. She's even more one of my favorites because I'm 40 and I don't have it figured out.
Yeah.
And
like, what do you want to do with your life?
That's right. I think we all struggle, and I know that for myself and for any of your listeners, maybe they can find some value in this. One of the things that I struggled with quite a bit was I would start to try to subscribe my self-worth through the opinions of others.
Well, that's exactly how I was. So
And
what everybody else thought of me, that is what I thought I was worth.
Right.
So I was always trying to be what everybody else wanted me to be
And
instead of who I was.
Is there anything more dangerous than that, Michelle?
No, not at all.
I mean, just the root of the
But
word.
you become an ugly person inside. Like
do.
not that I was mean or bad, but I just became ugly because it didn't do anything for myself.
That was
All
me.
I did was try to please others, not just please them, but my opinion was what someone else thought of me. And that could change 10 minutes from now. And it could change another hour from now because I took on everything everybody thought.
That's right.
Or I assumed they might have thought.
Uh-huh.
And I took it internally.
Right.
And it's like
And it leaves you
self-torture.
horribly
It's
unfulfilled.
self-torture,
And
yeah.
then you're like, oh my goodness, I have to live up to that.
Yeah.
And the funny part about all of it is, and it's never even dawned on me until I got later in my life, in my 20s, it's never even paused, but self-worth. It has to come from self. It's not called them worth.
Right.
It doesn't matter what they're
Right.
saying. And I think it's one of the most dangerous things nowadays, especially with social media and all the things that happen, and everybody's acting as if their life
Everything's
is wonderful.
so wonderful.
So
right.
I have a secret for all the listeners and anyone who hears this. All of our mentors and all of our gurus, they're all as screwed up as we are. They just are able to process it and hide it better.
Right.
Anyone who hears this,
Right.
I am just as messed up as you. I just have some tools that allow me to process it better.
Right.
And that is the God's honest
Because we
truth.
have mentors and coaches
Absolutely.
that help you through all that stuff.
You
Really.
have to have those. And people that
Let
are
people
struggling.
help you get the tools to
Absolutely.
do these things.
Don't be like I was in my younger years and be so arrogant and short-sighted to think that you have it all figured out because you don't know anything. You literally. I thought because I had been through trauma, I thought that made me worldly. I didn't experience anything. It was just a lie I was telling myself. I experienced a ton of pain, but I never experienced what I believe kind of makes you worldly, which is going through that pain and coming through the other side and really seeing, wow, when you embrace your pain, there's always something beautiful on the other side. There's two sides to it. Ray Lewis used to talk about this in football. Yeah, there's the pain that hurts, but then there's the pain of glory.
Right.
There's the pain of success. There's the pain of success.
Right.
And all of our mentors, they all say it. To be successful is painful, but it's the best pain there is. You have to push through that stuff.
Yeah.
And when I was younger, I just would think to myself, oh, I've been through so much. I know it all. I knew nothing. Because I was lying to myself. I literally was this wide and that deep.
Yeah.
But I thought I knew everything. And it turned out I knew absolutely nothing until I began to process those things. Because when you don't process them, you just end up on this loop.
Yeah.
It's like a negative carousel.
Mm-hmm.
All you have to do is step off. But it's the scariest
Scary.
step I've ever taken in my life,
Yeah.
Michelle, was stepping off that
Stepping
carousel.
off.
But it's also the greatest thing that ever happened to me as well,
Yeah.
which is a weird dynamic.
Sure is.
Yeah.
So Mike and I could go on forever, and we do when we talk because we
Let's
have
do it.
a lot of the same personality
See,
traits.
Michelle's a female me.
Yeah. So I mean, I would love to have you on again because there's so
Any-
much we could talk about when it
Anytime
comes to entrepreneurship,
we can talk
business.
about it for
Yeah.
hours, different subjects, but
I'm glad
I
you
love
shared
what
your
you're.
story.
No, I love what you're doing. Again, we're two peas in a pod. We've known each other forever, so any value I can bring, happy to do it.
Yeah,
Love
thank
it.
you. I'm just trying to
Absolutely.
add value to other people's lives too.
And you're
So
doing it.
just,
You're already doing it.
hopefully,
It's great.
hopefully it works. So
It's awesome.
thank you.
Love it.